now we just want to go through a relatively advanced example of data transformation and what you can actually do. A relevant example of what you can achieve if you just expand your mind in terms of thinking about the possibilities around what data is actually sitting out there and combining it with some of your internal data. So in this example, I'm going to show you how you can find data from a website that is relevant to the data model that we have here. So if we look at our location data here, you can see that everything is in California. So analyzing our data in California. And so in terms of how we want to see how our sales are going in California, we may want to compare that with the population in each of these counties. And we can see per head of population how our sales are going. And are we they're going better in some counties per capita versus other counties because sometimes, as you know, our results can be skewed if you had, depending on how large your population is. But we might be able to get far better penetration in a particular market. So the only way we can understand this if we have population statistics. So now you can see here that the population statistics are already here because in the demos data set, that was included. But in this example, I'm going to delete them and show you how you can find this data by yourself. So for instance, if we have different regions or different areas around the world, you may be able to find similar information yourself and how to match them up. So we've have a pretty detailed location table over here, but now we just need to go find the population information. So we want to see in per county how many people live in this particular um, location. So I found this website, California demographics.com, and I was able to see what the populations were per county. So I'm gonna go and query this information and bring it into my Power BI model. So I'm gonna copy and paste the web links, and then I'm gonna go to find the web query and just copy and paste the URL into the input box here and press OK. And this will bring up Navigator skill where we could actually preview the table that we want to bring in. So if I go table 0, so you can see that actually brought up the data within that website. So it's looking through to that website and it has found that table. And if I press OK, now it's going to run that query through the M language and it's going to bring it into our query editor. So I'm just going to name it here. I'm going to call it California data. Okay, so now if we look at this table now, just a pointer note here. So when you bring in some data from a website, it is 100% never as you want it. So you're going to have to make some kind of transformation. So obviously you don't need this frank information, so it's a bit irrelevant to us. So we could remove that. Also, you notice these rows at the bottom here. We also don't need them. They're also um, garbage data that's been brought in. Um, so what we can do here, we could just remove this column, and also we could go through and filter out these erroneous rows that have been brought in. So, so now we have actually a table we could work with. It's been with a population per county, which is what we wanted. So now we need to somehow get that table uh, with that data into our location table. So we need that as a column as location. What we have here actually, the county column here. So we could actually join this columns up, and I could recommend doing this because we don't need an extra table for this. We can when we could just bring it into one table. So the way we do this, we could just merge these queries. And to merge queries, we just select the tables that we want to merge, and we could go to the query, merge queries tab, and then we want to merge it on the county, and then we need to find the California data, and then we go into do an inner join where it's only so it's going to find all the counties that exist in the location table and match them all with all the counties in the new table that we've queried, and then so we're just going to match them like so. It's going to link them up. If you do it like that, you can see here that I actually give you a preview that 74 has been matched over 74. So we're going to get a full match. So press OK. And you can see here now that it has populated into our location table. So you just click on those 2 arrows up there, and then we can select which column you want to bring into this table. So I'm going to select them both at this, just for the demonstration purpose. There you go. So now we've actually imported that query into this table, and we know that they match because you can see that the new column county actually matches with the county column, as you see. So now we've combined these 2 columns. So just to finish this off, we just remove this column, and then we would rename this this column into population stats, or something like so. So now we have per county information on our population, and we can then pull in this information into our calculations and use these inner calculations to run analysis ourselves to make sure that we are getting the right cells or good cells within a particular area and regions of our data set. Yes. So now that we've added that data into our locations, we can also remove this query up into our staging queries and disable the load, because we don't need to load this table anymore into our model, because actually we have the data now into our location table. We've added it and we've merged it. So now let's go through another advanced example. This one has far more transformations, but it will sit within an existing or within its own table. In a lot of cases within the finance area, you might need to know what the exchange rates are. So I'm going to just navigate to this website here. It's based on, so I found a table of the exchange rate, which is based in New Zealand, for example, from Reserve Bank of New Zealand. And I'm going to try to reference this table, and I'm going to show you all the transformations that you need to make to get this table into an optimized shape into Power BI. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this link, then I'm going to go to web, and then I'm going to copy paste the web and press OK, and wait for Navigator, and then I'm going to find which table actually has the preview in it, and we can see. So you can see it's table 0, and I'm going to press OK. So now you can see that we have, yeah. So now we have this exchange rates table. So it's got a lot of information in it, but this is kind of in a bit of a suboptimal shape for Power BI. So we need to do a number of transformations, and you can see by me working away at this transformation, you can see how much you can actually do with these this transformation engine and what the end result you should be aiming for when you're making these transformations. So okay, so the first thing we need to do here is we need to filter out some of this information which is irrelevant. So these top 3 rows, we don't actually even need them. So what I'm going to do here is just going to get rid of them and deselect them from the filters. Just filter them out, so which is great. And then then we need to get these dates on a column. Yes, we need to get them on a column instead of here. It's like, so you find quite often that dates, you find out that dates, you find them as column headings, but in Power BI, the preferable way to have it is actually in one column. So the way to do that is unpivot the columns. So in this case, I will just select the one column that is the main one as is, and then I'll unpivot as so. So then you get an unpivoted table with all the dates coming down in one column, which is actually what you want. Now, what we'll do first, though, we will transpose these date headers with these date with these headers of because so what I actually want to do, I want to get these dates back into them, and I want to push this column into the header. So transpose it around. So what we need to do, we need to make these headers, into our first rows. So I'm going to use this selection over here. So this is going to bring back down on this. Then I'm going to transpose the information. So then I'm going to have my dates on the side, and our currencies actually on headers. And then I'm going to go back and use the first goes on headers. Then I'm going to make some changes to the column names. So I'm going to change this one to um, New Zealand USD, New Zealand pound sterling, New Zealand Australia, New Zealand yen. So just to format them so they're intuitive for us so we could work on them. So it's easier for us to follow once we come into our data model. And the last one here, we just put in dates for the column. So, okay, now we have all our currencies and dates laid out in this unpivot shape. So if you look over here, we need to just change this to, because it doesn't recognize it as a date table. So to do that, we go to the data outcome and we pass this, and actually physical recognize it as a date table and will change it for us. Now we come to the point where we want to get these column headers into one column, because we want to change all our exchange them into our dates column. Always think long and thin in these transformations. In Power BI, you want your data to be always unpivoted and in a long column. If you look at the shape, this is a pivoted shape, but um, if you in Power BI, you would want it to have it in an unpivoted format, long shapes, in order to facilitate the filtering. So the way to do that is to select the main dates column, and then you go to unpivot, and you get something along an unpivoted table such as this. And then you could come and change the headers on these, and you could call that exchange rates. This one you would call currencies pairing, uh, and then we could break this out again, and we could duplicate this column, and then we're going to split the column by 3, and then you'll end up with, we're going to delete this column, and then I could change this to foreign currency, yeah, and change the order like so. So now we've done a great deal of transformation. And if you look down on the left on the apply stage, look at the changes that we have made. But this is now an optimized shape table for Power BI. And then now we could rename it and call it exchange rate data. And then we could actually push this into our data model. And then we could commit this table to our model and utilize it in our calculations in combination with maybe the sales table, or if you think about your invoice table or your delivery table. So a range of different ways that you could use this table like this, or structured somewhat like this. Now, there's a few other changes that we want to just to make sure that the data types are correct. So you just go back and just to make sure that they're correct. So change this to a decimal. So yes, you actually So you could look back, you could go back and look and see what every single transformation that you've done and see what's been done through the whole of the data table. Yes. Another thing that actually the link for the website does not change. So if you go back and refresh, it'll actually go back to the website and refresh all the data table for you. Another thing that I just noticed, um, that all the column names are correct. So this is just an example, an advanced example of what you can achieve with the query editor. It might be not exactly to every single example that you work in, but it just shows you the power of the query editor.